Erased Destiny. Chapter 6. Unconventional Methods. Jargon on foot returned home. Already halfway there, he regretted this decision, and regretted even more that he had not taken money with him. He was surprised that Merigold traveled this route every day and in both directions. Not to mention the loads she carried. He arrived home after lunch, as Joanna informed him. The boy nodded and went straight to his father's study. After the long walk, he was tired, and his legs ached, but he wanted something to eat more than to go to bed. Cyril ate his breakfasts alone. He cooked the meals himself and cleaned up after himself. Jargon did not know why breakfasts deserved special treatment and never asked his father about it. He chuckled at the roasted wing before he was struck by the unusual nature of eating poultry in the morning.
Dad, why are you eating here and not with us?
When your siblings were small, they made such a fuss over breakfast that I got ulcers. As a therapy, the healer recommended that I eat my meals alone. And somehow it stayed that way. To be honest, here no one checks my menu, no one cares about my health. Excessive interest does harm.
Jargon swallowed the last piece of meat and sat down on the carpet. He would have been happiest to lie down, but first he wanted to get answers to some of the questions that had been plaguing him. If Cyril had shown more patience, Jargon would not have left his office until late at night.
Is it true that girls get married when they turn 16? And boys?
By the law, girls can get married when they are 16 years old and boys at the age of 20. They usually do it a little later. I was 25 and Joanna was 17 when we got married.
It seemed to Jargon that 8 years' difference between spouses was a lot, but it was more urgent for him to determine other issues.
What if a girl gets pregnant by a boy who is not 20? Only 18? Or she gets pregnant and doesn't want to bond with the father of her child? Or he doesn't want her?
Have you begotten an offspring that you question like this?
Checking out the possibilities.
Cyril looked at his son from above the book. The serious expression on the boy's face prompted him to stop reading, put the book on the desk, and focus on the conversation. The analysis of the effect of the weight of the cloth on the price achieved had to wait, as did the answer to the vastly inflated bill from the jeweler. Repairing Joanna's 2 necklaces could not cost 3.5 pieces of silver. Before Jargon continued the interview, he gave his father time to clean up his desk, collect his thoughts, and set himself up for a serious discussion.
The role of mothers is to explain such things. And Joanna is burning to give you all the information you need.
Mom wants to pair me up with some rich maiden with a nasty character.
Cyril went out into the corridor, handed the butler 3 reminders for the rent-defaulting farmers, and returned to the study. He looked at the map, twice at the calendar, and, reassured by the lack of urgent action, focused his attention on his son. The next shipment of spices was due to arrive in 2 days, so he would have time to arrange for reloading and pay any tolls due.
Well, if a couple wants to get married and the girl is not pregnant, she must be over 16 and he 20. Parents can assign their children's partners to premarital trials. Until the trials are passed, the youngsters cannot get married. But to run away to the forest and live there in one hut, nobody can forbid them.
No one will chase them. Force them to return. Their parents won't look for them.
Cyril guessed that the reason for all these questions is Merigold, who is not going to wait 6 years, and Joanna, who does not accept a poor girl as a daughter-in-law. 2 women as different as possible, but with equally strong characters. Stubborn more than Jargon and Cyril combined. Nothing good could come out of such a juxtaposition.
If the girl is over 16 and the boy 20, then no one can force them to do anything or forbid them anything.
What if they are both 16?
Then the boy's parents have the right to take him back home. As long as the girl is not pregnant. Pregnancies complicate everything.
It's not fair. Why do I have to wait 4 years longer? What if the boy is an orphan?
Cyril did not suppose that Jargon was planning to murder them, but he could not rule it out. More than once and twice his son's reasoning completely surprised him.
Think hard. Who would force an orphan to do anything? Fair or not, that's the law. Most boys mature later. Life with a woman is not as easy as it may seem. It takes wisdom, patience, and gentleness.
There are also nice girls in the world. And what's the deal with these pregnancies?
Joanna listened to the conversation from the hallway. She pretended to clean the dust off the picture frames and waited for the discussion to continue. She really wanted to explain to Jargon all the intricacies of marriage and relationships. Many times she tried to strike up a conversation on the subject, but her son didn't listen to her.
If a girl gets pregnant, she can marry the father of the child regardless of her age, as long as that father is over 20. If he is younger, then the girl's parents meet with the boy's parents to determine how the boy will pay for the child's upkeep.
Jargon's facial expression made it clear that such a solution is not considered by him at all. If Merigold got pregnant, they would disappear from the land of Sintra.
What if they don't want to be together? For example, it was a rape or something.
If it was the rape, then the boy ends up in the dungeon or bearing the child. The girl chooses what suits her better. I advise against this option because of many unpleasant events awaiting the rapist before the trial.
You know, I wouldn't hurt Merigold. I asked in case someone else.
You will be a good architect, son.
Knocked out of his way of thinking, Jargon had a hard time returning to the original thread. Cyril used the break in the discussion to pull a bottle of wine from the cachet. He looked at the clock, then at the door, and quietly uncorked the beverage.
You try to anticipate all possible scenarios, and that's important in this job. Many buildings didn't survive a hard winter or windstorm because someone miscalculated something, misplaced something.
Thanks, Dad. I'm glad you think so. If I understood correctly, regardless of pregnancies and other events, a boy can get married after he turns 20.
That's right. There is only one wicket, pregnancy and orphanhood of the girl. Only then does the age of the boy not matter. There is also a suspended marriage in the Codex.
Sounds interesting. Is it a longer engagement?
Joanna clenched her hands so tightly on the cloth that her fingers turned white, deprived of blood supply. The only thing keeping her from barging into Cyril's office was her reluctance to admit that she had overheard their conversation. Raised in far-reaching secrecy, the woman couldn't confess something as low as putting her ear to the door so as not to miss a word of the discussion going on behind the wall.
Not really. This is a formal state that generates some complications when separating. Well, a suspended marriage takes place in the case of unions between minors. If the law does not allow them to marry and they nevertheless want to live together, usually pressure comes from the girl's parents, they may decide to take this step.
You said something about consequences.
The boy must support the girl and their children, if any. He gets half of the planned dowry. When they both reach the required age, they get married. If they separate, the boy supports the girl until she finds a husband. He is also obliged to take care of their children.
Can parents oppose against that temporary marriage?
Cyril fell silent. He never needed this knowledge for anything. Joanna was well aware that the suspension of the vow deprived her of any right to object. She could not even appoint Merigold a premarital trial. Cyril walked over to a bookcase and looked at the wrappers for a moment.
Take the Codex and read it yourself. Knowledge of the law, not just family law, will certainly come in handy more than once. Third row from the top.
Cyril handed his son the thinnest of the volumes.
How can you be sure that Merigold wants to marry you?
Merigold plans to leave Sintra when she turns 16. I want to know what I can offer her. I will bring the construction of the vineyard to completion. maybe she would stay there.
Joanna hid in the bathroom. Jargon walked past her and headed for his bedroom with the family codex under his arm. As the door of his room closed, Joanna entered Cyril's study. She was short of breath from indignation. Seeing the color changes taking place on her face, Cyril wondered if escaping through the window was the most appropriate solution.
I will not allow him to associate with a village girl. Peasant girl will never live in our house.
If you forbid him, he will run away, and you won't see him at all. Is this what you want?
6 years is a long time. He has still time to fall in love with someone. The right one.
And if not? If he chooses Merigold, what will you do?
Joanna's rage was compounded by a growing sense of helplessness. The only way out of the situation seemed to be to leave Sintra, or to get rid of Merigold, pay her to disappear from Jargon's life. As soon as it got dark, Merigold knocked on the door of room. Pillas had prepared a portal for them leading to some steep, bold hill. Merigold tried to remain serious, which was most hindered by exuberant Yume. The girl waved to everyone seen at the corridor and gave the impression of playing a part in some strange performance. They moved to a gloomy, windy, and cold place. Perfect for conducting a dangerous ritual. Merigold did not know what to do, so she asked Etienne for help.
Great place. Shall we start?
First, we have to chase away the evil powers that cast a spell on you. Spirits of fire, water, and earth, guardians of ice, sand, and wind, I entrust you this body.
Priest's incantations sounded serious enough to be used as a setting for the ceremony. Etienne drew the symbol of death on Umma's forehead with her fingernail and said,
Now jump down. Don't be afraid. You will not die.
I've already said that I am not afraid.
Mum walked to the edge of the cliff. Her legs weakened, but her face was still fierce and determined. She closed her eyes and jumped forward. A rocky, sloping wall appeared below her, and Yume rolled right down it.
Magic of earth. Interesting. I thought that fire would answer her call, but well, it doesn't really matter. Earth, so be it. Poison ivy.
Etienne dragged a somewhat battered but very happy Yuma uphill. She put on a cloak, arranged the candles in a circle, and spread a black handkerchief on the ground.
It didn't look too bad.
The spirits of the earth answered our call and will help us remove the curse. Now don't move for a while.
Etienne sniffed the air. Very subtle smell of a harmful spell came to her. Could it be that Yume was indeed cursed? Etienne smiled. Death energy surrounding Umma was so weak that it could be only an evil eye, a spell that required nothing more than a bit of power and ill intentions.
On the power of death, removal.
Oh, so warm. I feel better immediately.
I'm glad. Now cast a spell.
Mother Earth, hear my voice. Control.
A row of stone pillars appeared around the girls, and the whole area collapsed by 2 cubits. Etienne couldn't believe that something as weak as Evil Eye could block someone's magic and cause anything more than fatigue.
Curse removed. Now you will definitely pass the exam.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. You are the best. The best of the best.
Etienne rubbed the life-saving symbol off Ummi's forehead and cleaned up the candles. After that, she gave Merigold her body back. She felt tired, not because of removing the curse, but due to using the body she didn't own. If she wanted to look for Nathan, she had to improve her endurance.
Can we stay here for the night?
Why do you want to stay here? It's cold, windy, and not pleasant at all.
I've never spent a night outside. My fiancé doesn't let me.
Do you have a fiancé? So early?
Formed a dome to protect herself from the wind and sat on the ground. Merigold put a folded cloak under her bottom. The girl did not look immune to the cold, especially the treacherous chill of Lesseth.
He is older than me and very rich. We see each other every month. He manages the mines, and my magic will protect them from collapse.
Responsible job. Is that why you attend the school?
I like magic, but I also want to help the miners. Do you know that every year there is a landslide and then someone dies? Terrible, isn't it?
Not only in mines people die. I, for example, am in the business of curing diseases and removing curses. I can brew many healing potions.
The girls talked for 2 more hours. Was warming up with a fiery vortex, so she didn't suffer from the cold, but when she got hungry, she agreed to go back to the school. A tired Merigold crawled to her new residence. She was so sleepy that she didn't pay attention to the dinner she had prepared in advance.